Hey guys, sorry for today's earlier upload. Seems I accidentally turned the background audio up 55% instead of turning it down 55% for the first clip, which made it almost unintelligible to hear what I was saying. Hopefully it should be fixed, and yeah, I just had to put all the clips together, so let's roll it. Grand Theft Auto has a serious problem that I think has been plaguing the game for years. And it has to do with the fact that the main name of the game is actually pretty useless at this point in time. The title of Grand Theft Auto is Grand Theft Auto. And for those of you that haven't taken a second to think about it, Grand Theft Auto is actually a criminal charge. Like, that's the name of the charge. It's a felony in most states, at least in the United States, and the definition of a Grand Theft Auto is when you steal somebody's car with the idea of permanently keeping it or depriving it from the owner. That is the definition. So let's say I had a neighbor, Bobby McDooferson, and I really liked his Ford. Well, now I have it because I stole it from his garage and it's my car. That's what the definition of it is. Grand Theft Auto is obviously meant to be a car game. When it first was created, the main focus, apart from the storyline, was based on cars. And when GTA Online came out, the majority of the game was just having cars, chilling with your friends, driving around the streets of Los Santos. And you can still do that. But nowadays, I feel like the main point of the game has drastically shifted, and the whole point of cars is completely useless nowadays. For example, let's say that you want to start a mission out of your agency. Are you going to go walk over to your office associate and go get out a helicopter, which is included free in the building, use one of your own personal helicopters, or get one of your sports cars out and go drive it all the way over to the location and then painstakingly kill all the guards or whatever you're doing to then have to drive all the way back? Instead, when you could just get yourself a helicopter, which comes with the building for free, cut the time in half flying there and back, and then just call out an Oppressor Mark II and blow everything up right in front of you. In fact, I don't think there's really a single thing that cars can do better than a lot of other vehicles. For example, just to call in a car, you have to scroll into your phone's contacts list until you find your mechanic. It'd be really nice if you could set favorites on your contacts list so your mechanic would show up right at the top, but unfortunately that's not the case. So now after calling my mechanic, I need to scroll through all of my contacts and all my garages until I figure out which car I want. Okay, sure, I'll call out my Panther. Okay, so now we gotta wait a little bit for my car to arrive, which is another 5 seconds. Then we have to go run over to my vehicle. So from start to finish, it probably takes a good 30 to 40 seconds to get my vehicle out. Let's compare that time to simply scrolling over to service vehicles, to go over to my Kosatka, to press my Sparrow, and voila, my Sparrow has spawned right behind. Now, my Sparrow is not only faster than any single car I can physically spawn, flying at 168 miles per hour, but it also flies, which means I literally don't need to worry about roads. It has missiles. It has flares. So this already beats the majority of vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. And it really makes you question why you would ever pull out a car when you can pull out a helicopter. Now, yes, I know there's going to be people in the comments that say, well, cars are just fun to drive. I like to mess around and drive my vehicles. And yeah, I do too. There are some days in GTA when I'll just pull out a car and I'll drive for 10 minutes, 15 minutes down the road while I think of maybe what I want to make a video on. But at the same time, if I want to drive, I'll go over to Forza, and I'll have faster vehicles, and I'll have better driving physics, and I'll have much more cars, and I'll have better graphics, and a better engine. And at that point, I'm like, well, what's really the point of driving in GTA when I have other games that are literally just better for driving, more enjoyable for driving? I don't have to worry about being blown up. I don't have to worry about the graphics being much worse. I don't know. It's just, at this point in GTA, I feel like the majority of cars don't really have a purpose, and it's just another vehicle to purchase and then sit in your garage. A fun way you can see how much you personally use cars versus planes and helicopters is going over to the stats page and scrolling over to vehicles. As we can see, I've spent 6 days and 21 hours, so basically 7 days driving cars. In those 7 days, I've been able to travel 9,400 miles. In helicopters, I have been flying for 1 day and 22 hours, so 2 days essentially, and I've been able to fly 4,500 miles. So I have flown in my helicopter about 1/4 of the time that I have driven in my cars, and yet I have traveled about half the distance. So basically, every time I drive a car, I'm making about 1/4 the distance I am going in a helicopter. So for every 1 mile I drive in a car, I'm going about 3.5 miles in a helicopter, which is kind of insane when you think about it. And for planes, I have flown 1 day, and I've been able to travel 3,000 miles. So again, as we can see, if we were to multiply 1 day by 7, we would be sitting at around 21,000 miles in my planes versus the 9,000 we're sitting in my cars. So I'm traveling about double, almost triple the distance in planes than I am versus cars. Now, personally, I like helicopters the most, and you can actually see, comparing the time I've flown in helicopters versus planes, it's actually a pretty even split. It's very close. You do travel more distance in planes, but it takes a bit longer to actually get over to planes. But personally, I use helicopters a lot, and more lately than ever, because the Sparrow is just such a fantastic way to travel around the map. For the first 5 years of Grand Theft Auto Online's release, cars were basically the only thing you saw people driving. This vehicle here, the Insurgent Pickup Custom, was added in the Major Heists update, and it was it. Everybody was driving an Insurgent Pickup Custom. It was a super fun vehicle to mess around with. But for the majority of time, the only way to get an Insurgent Pickup Custom wasn't customizable. You had to call it through Pegasus, and that was the only way to drive it. The only Insurgent you could actually put in your garage was the base one. And Rockstar worked really hard to make sure that vehicles and cars were super well balanced and, people just had a fun time driving them. The only way to get your hands on deadly planes like the Laser was to break into the military base, get a 4-star wanted level, hope that you don't get blown up on the way out, and then you could cause terror. But that took a lot of effort, and it would actually be worth it to grab the Laser if you wanted to mess around with it. And if you looked away from the Laser for just a minute, it would despawn, and you'd never be able to get it again. And the only way to call out Pegasus vehicles were to buy the very limited supply from Warstock Cash and Carry or Elitist Air Travel, call them through Pegasus, and they weren't customizable. They didn't have special bombs, missiles, flares. They were just basic planes. They were very easy to shoot out of the sky, even with a pretty basic homing launcher. It wasn't until the hangar got added into Grand Theft Auto Online that things really started to take a downhill turn. And it wasn't just the hangar, it was the gun running update. The gun running update added a lot. It added the Insurgent Pickup Customs upgradability, and it added the Oppressor. Now, the Oppressor was alright, because while it did take a little bit of cars away from being, fun, because you could now fly, it wasn't too bad. The Deluxo still wasn't in the game, and the Oppressor was a motorcycle that if you crashed, you die. It was very easy to take out of the sky if you knew what to do, so I didn't really mind it. Once the Oppressor Mark II, once the Kosatka, once the hangar, and once all these new updates have been added into Grand Theft Auto Online, it just seems like cars are pretty useless. And there's only really one way that Rockstar has tried to bring back cars. And that is with this, the Toreador. This is probably the best car in the game currently. The vehicle can shoot missiles, which is super, super nice, and can literally bomb anybody in front of you. It features a rocket boost, which allows it to get from point A to point B very, very quick, especially if you're a decent driver. It can go underwater, and it can survive upwards of 7 to 8 homing missiles. This actually makes it a really good threat for anybody, even in flying vehicles. But, unfortunately, Rockstar nerfed the one major thing this vehicle was great at, and that was missions. I don't know why they nerfed it. It's so disappointing. But yeah, now you can't use this vehicle in missions, which takes away a big chunk of the capabilities that cars have in Grand Theft Auto Online. Thankfully, the Vigilante can still be used in missions, which is the major things that cars are still known for, but that's just because Rockstar has literally locked it so that you can't use any personal flying vehicles. Amani Tech cars are cool, they're fun, and super well armored, but at the end of the day, I can call out a jet, and I'll make it from point A to point B way faster than an Amani Tech vehicle, and I still won't worry about being blown up. If I pull out my Raiju, who's going to catch me, let alone blow me out of the sky? So yeah, I usually don't even think Amani Tech vehicles are that amazing. They're great if you're new to the game, and you just want to drive around and not worry about being killed, but at the end of the day, helicopters are the way to go, especially if you're playing solo session like I do most of the time. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. Maybe a lot of you drive cars. But in my eyes, I think Rockstar has really killed the car in Grand Theft Auto Online. If you want to do missions, and if you want to make money fast, and you don't want to waste time, you're going to pull out an Oppressor Mark II. You're going to pull out a Sparrow. You're going to pull out vehicles that are much more efficient and effective at getting from point A to point B than just a normal street car. And that's just how it is. It's really disappointing. You don't see people driving cars for fun anymore. But, yeah, I don't know. I still do it, and this isn't a rant video, but it's more a warning. I'm hoping that Rockstar doesn't screw Grand Theft Auto 6's release. I'm hoping the Oppressor Mark II and all these overpowered flying vehicles are toned down. Grand Theft Auto is more focused on the cars, more focused on the customization. There is a fighting element, and there is an element of planes, but they're not dominating the meta. They're not dominating the skies, and they're not ruining your fun. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.